Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are the Jocks of All Trades podcast, and this is Jock Talk, the show where we have kind of just about everything, guys, right? I don't think there's anything that we don't cover besides baseball and hockey, and never mind.
Tennis.
To that point, I have a special announcement. It's kind of two-parted. Guys, we are 3 years into this podcast. 2 years ago was actually when Kyle and I restarted and started through video. Kyle and I started this journey in March 2019 with a small microphone, one laptop, and Spotify. That was it. That was what the podcast was. That was it. As much as I'd love to share those original episodes for people that are going to ask, we can't. They're gone. They've gone with the wind, perhaps is a good way to say that. I don't know. But 2 years ago, we really revamped things by adding video. Video was awesome. We brought in Luke. That was an awesome addition for us because that really changed our whole variable, and I loved it. COVID wasn't so bad because we were all doing the thing that we love together. September 2021 saw us bring in StreamYard and many different show offerings for our viewers. Jock Talk, Armchair GMs, and Random Fandom. I'm proud to say that all three of those are, for the most part, still going strong. 2022 brought us a new logo design, our team expanding to add sports gurus and Jay and Matt, and new shows and sideline GMs and Smash Popcorn. We have accomplished so much together, and I can't wait to see what the podcast will continue to look like going forward. Thank you all for hanging around for the journey with us. Thank you to Kyle, Luke, Jay, and Matt for continuing to create quality content for fun, but also for the community. With that, I will be taking an extended leave in December. And I probably won't be back until April or May. We are adding a baby boy to our family, and I'm going to take time to be there with him as well as my wife, Devin, as we are going to navigate parenthood. Scary. Until then, let's party. Let's bring you your favorite segments, talk about our favorite Muppets, maybe finish Lord of the Rings, and get you to a fantasy championship on Wednesdays. Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's time for the buzz. Let's kick it off right. I don't think it would really be the buzz if we didn't talk about one of the funniest things that's happened this weekend. You guys, I know you play fantasy. I know a lot of you probably are either really happy or disappointed with how this past weekend went. But this has to be the best part that I have seen this week about it. If you haven't seen Remember the Titans, first of all, who are you? Second of all, this is one of the best parts of that entire film. I've read it out loud to myself 1,000 times, trying to sound like Denzel, but that's not going to happen. But I love that Amon-Ra saw it and then went off for 20 points. So, maybe this was the right way to go. Bully your favorite fans and players and see what happens. I'm kidding. Let's continue on. I just had to share that. That's awesome. Guys, I want to hear it. I've heard it a lot. I don't know if I hear it more because I'm an SEC person. What's up with the hate for Georgia? Everybody kind of hates that they're number one, even though they're still number one. What's up with that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not in the same sphere as you. I don't know where the hate from Georgia is coming from. I certainly don't hate them. I think if anything, it's they don't have this big time QB that other programs do. He's not a sexy QB. He's not a top NFL prospect. They don't have really a top NFL prospect at running back or receiver. But like tight end, they're loaded. Yeah. Offensive line, pretty good. And also their defense is incredible. And I think they've shown that while they're not Alabama yet in terms of consecutive championships and all of that, they're getting pretty darn close to getting those 4-star, 5 stars, and plug-and-play guys every year. And then Stetson Bennett, I think, is just a good QB. He's gotten better every year. He's a walk-on guy, but that's kind of what you want to see from a big-time quarterback, a quarterback that progresses every year. We see a lot of 6th-year quarterbacks, 5th-year quarterbacks in college football, and they still suck. Sean Clifford. Yeah. But Stetson Bennett is pretty darn good, and he operates within himself. He operates the offense well. He doesn't turn the ball over. If I was a Georgia fan, I'd feel ecstatic right now. I don't know where the hate's coming from, if there is any, but if there is, people are stupid. because I think they're pretty.
Let me provide what the hate is, and maybe that'll change your answer a little bit. People are hating the Oregon ranking because, and I'll agree with that because come on, it's Bo Nix. Let's calm down. Let's calm down for a second. It's Bo Nix still.
Yeah.
So yeah, you whooped Oregon. What were they going to do? And then the second one that I keep hearing is they only hung 33 on an FCS team, and people are complaining about that too because they're like they had them at home. It's Samford, which is in Alabama. I don't know if you guys know where that is. But it's an itty bitty school, and they only hung 33. So they're saying, are they really elite? Do they deserve one? Should they really move over Alabama after that loss? Even though Alabama looked terrible, that's what they're saying. They're like, but has Georgia done enough to say we are more elite than Alabama to this point? So would that color your answer a little bit differently?
I don't know.
I think for me, the biggest part about, again, we can talk about some of the, we're going to get further into kind of like why college football rankings are not the best in the world. I do think some of the hate does kind of revolve around, people in the sports realm. So when it's not their team, they don't like quote unquote success. And they've seen Georgia be successful for the first time in 41 years. They won themselves a championship, and they're like, okay, now it's somebody else's turn. And they see Georgia have a butt ton of players go to the NFL. They see Stetson Bennett, and they're like, okay, that was great last year. A great feel-good story. We know he's a walk-on, so he should kind of start, regressing back down to, where you'd expect a walk-on to be. And then in week 1 against what we all thought was the number 11 team in the country, Oregon wins a game in completely non-Oregon fashion. I mean, when we think of Georgia, Georgia wins a game in complete non-Georgia fashion in that they didn't run the ball and play good defense. That's not how they won that game. No. They threw for over 400 yards in that game. Yeah. And that's Stetson Bennett and just absolutely
he
slicing
good.
And dicing. Yeah, slicing and dicing. Good. Yeah, no, he looked excellent. And people, number one, they don't like change. Number two, they don't like the idea of a repeat. And they're going, oh my word, Georgia might actually do this. And they've looked like they're coming right back in where they ended off last season. So that might be some of the reason for the hate. People don't expect you, when you have a former walk-on QB and to lose a butt ton of players to the NFL, that you are going to compete for a championship again. And Georgia still looks in championship form.
Yeah, I think people, too, just look for reasons to put other teams lower than what they should be. Like Alabama, for instance, right? They beat Texas. They still beat Texas. A win's a win, a win. But, you'll come back to this argument in, 10 weeks and be like, well, remember Alabama only beat Texas by 1. People will harp on the negatives when it comes to ranking teams. But, I get 33 isn't a lot on Stanford, but they still shut them out. That's pretty impressive.
I mean, it was 30-0 at the half.
Yeah, they put in their backups. 3 quarterbacks, I think, got to play. 5 running backs got to play. It's practice at that point, some teams, you want a sexy win for the rankings, but Georgia doesn't need that. They know they're gonna.
They know if they go undefeated this year, it doesn't matter if it's 1 point each game. They know if they go undefeated in the regular season, it doesn't even matter what happens in the SEC championship game. They're going to make it to the playoff.
Yeah.
Right.
So even if they lose 1 game, they're going to probably be in there. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go on to a topic where I feel like I know what both of you are going to say. So this should be pretty quick. The Bills looked tough, big tough. Are they the real Super Bowl favorites?
I would say so.
Yeah.
No, it's Josh Allen looks like a demigod out there. It is insane. The fact that he is willing to. Do we have a surprise guest?
We have a surprise guest.
It is. I do get to brag about what happened in New Orleans.
Let's hear it. I missed the conversation, but let's hear it.
We haven't gotten to that part yet. I'll find a way to throw in bragging a little bit. So I'll wait to kind of recap when Aubin rejoins us. Yes, but going back to the Bills, Josh Allen, again, looks like a demigod. He can throw and fit it into tight windows. We saw that against the Rams. And when there's nothing there, he can take off and run. This man, I watched that game. That man has no fear. He runs like he's a running back, and he is not afraid of getting hurt. It probably makes every Bills fan have their heart go in their throat, but the man's not afraid. And they've got a great quality of weapons for him to throw to between Stephon Diggs and all the rest. So, and that defense,
a great quality of weapons. Hold on, let me just interrupt for just a second because I find this interesting. A great quality of weapons, including Stephon Diggs and everyone else who's there, but nobody knows their name. That's all.
I'll help you out. I'll help you out.
That's all.
I'll help you out.
Well, the thing is, when you have someone like Josh Allen, they all look like they're high quality weapons. And that's, I guess, another compliment to Josh Allen. The other part that's scary about the Bills is the addition, I believe, of Von Miller.
Yeah.
That just upgraded the defense to a point where it's just absolutely spooky. That dude is a game wrecker. So, yeah, no, I would definitely put the Bills at least in the Super Bowl, if not favor them to win it.
I'll help you out, Luke. Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Jamison Crowder, Dawson Knox, James Cook, Devin Singletary,
Zach
Moss. Like, they have guys for sure. And Gabe Davis is stepping up big time.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, Luke. You mentioned Von Miller. That, I think, is the X factor for them. Against the Chiefs last year, dude, they couldn't touch Patrick Mahomes. They finally have a guy that's not only just a really good pass rusher, but like a quick one. You know, like if you look at that game last night with the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, Micah Parsons got within Tom Brady in like half a second. You know, like he's that fast. Von Miller is that quick sometimes. The Bills' defense just works. Their safeties are excellent. Their best corner, Travius White's not even playing, and they dominated the Rams. So when you add a guy like Von Miller and have really good depth along the defensive line, so they can sub 4 out, put another 4 in, and do pretty much equally to what the first 4 were doing, that can go a long way in the playoffs, especially when you're going to play someone like Patrick Mahomes. You need those bevy of pass rushers just to keep on coming. So, like, yeah, I would say they're Super Bowl favorites for sure, not only because of Josh Allen, but, yeah, Von Miller, that really helps out the defense for sure.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Aubin will probably enjoy this next question. We have to talk about it. It's not really related to this past week. It's just kind of in general. Why are college football rankings so bad? Let's talk about Oregon. Oregon is the first one in my mind. Aubin?
I gotta clear my camera. It's bothering me.
Okay. It's Bo Nix in a different uniform. Can we all agree on that? Why in the world did they put Oregon at 11? Like, there's just some weird things.
The same reason that Notre Dame was at number 5 and then has gone 0-2 to start the season. So
it's the first week. I think they should just get rid of rankings in the first 2 weeks and do them after you know what I mean? Like it's so early to tell.
Honestly, they could probably wait till mid-season.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah, they probably could.
There's so much change that goes on from season to season. Like it's not really. Oregon isn't what they were last year. Same with, Notre Dame always does this. It's not a surprise. Even if Notre Dame had the completely same team as last year.
No, they don't always lose to unranked teams out of the blue.
No, but they always disappoint you. Like they do that. Like that's who they are. But I think they should wait a couple weeks. Teams like Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. Like we pretty much know they're going to be in the top 25 somewhere. But after that, it gets kind of dicey. Like where do you put these teams?
Yeah.
So I think they should wait a few weeks because, for sure, Oregon never should have been ranked number 11. Bo Nix sucks. He's one of those quarterbacks that, he's in like his fifth or sixth year, but he's worse than
every year.
Every year. He's horrible. So
unfortunately, here's the thing, though. We say hold off on the rankings until like the first couple of weeks or mid-season, but yet. Even after the championship is played, you have sports media going out and putting out their way too early top 25s. And the national media is always going to be engaged in that aspect of the game.
Oh, it's true.
And the point that I'd like to make is that while you have specific networks within the national media having a vested interest in how some teams fare, that is going to impact how other teams are ranked. Let me point out that in the new AP poll that came out, Oregon is somehow still ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, I don't get
and that. Texas, despite losing the game, is actually went up in the rankings. They are now in the top 25.
They played a great game against Alabama, though. So I mean,
but they still lost. What team
close enough
after loss?
Close enough to almost win. So
I mean, I'd rather put them above Oregon. Like, you know what I mean?
I agree. Texas belongs above Oregon, but I'm saying if a team isn't in the top 25 and they lose a game, and all of a sudden they're in the top 25, I think it says something about who they were playing. As opposed to who they are. For example, I don't think that if, let's say it wasn't Alabama they were playing. Let's say it was Ohio State they were playing. I don't think Texas would have made it in the top 25 if they played Ohio State within 1 point.
I think if they played the game exactly like they would have, like they did, I think if they play anyone in the top 3, because the separation between, in reality, the separation between an Alabama right now and Ohio State right now and Georgia right now is so minuscule that if they would have played anyone in that top 3, top 5, and they played like that and almost won, I think they would have moved up regardless.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
We're talking degrees of separation that are so minuscule that I don't think it would make much of a difference.
Yeah. I just think that right now the national media, we know that there is such a thing as SEC bias, and it shows that I think that there's some of that there in that Oregon is still ranked. Texas is now ranked. Notre Dame is completely out of the top 25, negating an Ohio State top
Texas
5 win in
SEC
week
yet.
1 that looked really, really good. And now the media is telling us, oh, that's trash. So I think while the national media has an interest in who wins, I think that puts an aura of doubt on how some teams get ranked.
Interesting.
I mean, I think it just depends on how good the team looks. You know, Penn State narrowly escapes road game Purdue. They don't go in the rankings, and all of a sudden they bomb Ohio, who sucks 49-6, and they get in.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. It's a little weird that they jumped up, but also it's Alabama, and I think it honestly should depend on how you look rather than win or loss. Now, if a team goes 0-12, they narrowly beat Alabama and Georgia every time. Like, you know, no.
I mean, if we put this into like a player perspective, so let's see who's a terrible quarterback. Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones is a terrible quarterback. So let's say that Daniel Jones is ranked 30, right? 30th in the league, but then they play the Chiefs. And he goes out there against the Chiefs and throws for 500 yards. The next week, more than likely, even though they lose that game, his rating goes up because he put out a good performance against a team he wasn't supposed to put a good performance against. So that's the same idea there.
Right.
You know, if you put up a better effort than you were expected to, and you show people that you've got something that they didn't expect, you deserve that bump up in the ratings.
And I think that was the whole reason Georgia got into the top 4 last year after losing to Alabama, because it didn't matter that they lost. They still hung 21 points. They still went undefeated throughout the season, because if they went by the game, they lost. They shouldn't have been in the top 4. But they were looking at the performance. They were looking at the team. I think that's what they do. And I don't like it that way, but it makes sense. It's just not perfect. I don't think we're going to have a utopian rating system.
It's not always consistent.
No.
Like, let's just be honest. It's not. They don't always do that. You know, you'll see, like, Notre Dame should be completely out top 25. Oregon should be completely out of the top 25.
Agreed.
Based on not only the record, but just how they look. Like, anybody can see that Notre Dame's quarterback, who's out for the year. Actually, that was just called. I don't know what his name is.
Yeah,
but
Tyler
like,
Buckner, quarterback.
He's not anything. Like, he'll never take his team to a championship. He's not that type of player. They don't have the talent that a lot of other teams do. Same with Oregon. Bo Nix sucks. And even their defense, like I thought, they have Noah Sewell. They have a number of other players that actually like NFL worthy. I don't know who they are, but like from what I'm hearing, their defense was supposed to be legit, and that was nothing to be seen against Georgia. So it should be based on how they look, but yeah, they're not always consistent with that. So
let's wrap up the buzz. This is some recent news. Mike Tomlin came out and said that Pickett's just going to ride the bench all season. He's out for the
entire season.
The entire season. So what's up with the Steelers picking Mitch over Pickett? I know we got two Birds fans in here. I don't know if y'all care. This is probably great for you guys because it's Mitchell Trubisky. So take that how you will. But Kenny, my thing with this, I still think that Kenny Pickett was the wrong pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I still think they should have gone with Malik Willis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that should have been their pick. So no, it feels duh to me that Pickett is sitting on the bench the whole season because he's not ready. He's not ready. He's not bad. He's just not ready. I would have taken Malik Willis as the more NFL ready quarterback. His arm, we've all seen the preseason games with his arm. He's very good arm. But to me, it makes sense. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but I didn't feel like Pickett was the most NFL ready quarterback to be there.
I think he was the most NFL ready quarterback. I don't think he has the highest ceiling of all of them. Absolutely not. But we saw what Matt Corral did in the preseason. He looked like garbage, trash. They traded for Baker Mayfield. They have Sam Darnold, and like he still like sucks. Malik Willis, I think, has the opportunity to be one of the best quarterbacks in that draft class. That's not really saying much. I think he'll supplant Ryan Tannehill in a couple of years because Tannehill's pretty below average. But the gap from Pickett to Mitch isn't really that big. I think that's kind of why they have Mitch here is because, listen, the Steelers' season is going to go as their defense goes. We saw that in week 1. Their offense was pitiful. Their offensive line, pitiful. But their defense forced 5 turnovers. They won the game.
But now that defense is without TJ Watt.
Yeah, I was going to say TJ Watt's out. So that's going to hurt quite a bit. But with that offensive line specifically, if they have anything in Kenny Pickett, they might not know what that is behind that offensive line. At least you can stick Mitch, who's definitely probably he is. He's way more mobile than Kenny Pickett. Trubisky's a pretty good runner. So at least when trouble is a brewing, breakdown of the offensive line, he can run around a little bit. But they won't be able to see anything with Kenny Pickett with that offensive line in there. So I think they're thinking, well, we're going to stick him behind. And if Kenny Pickett gets hurt, if Trubisky gets hurt, then we'll stick Kenny Pickett in. I think the talent surrounding Pickett is pretty good from receiver standpoint, tight end standpoint, running back standpoint.
Deontay Johnson impressed me. That catch yesterday was disgusting. Oh, my God. There were 2 of those catches. Because Claypool had another one.
Yeah.
Claypool had one right in front of the end zone on the other side. It was impressive. But Najee's hurt now. So
he got hurt. Yeah. But
I think the other thing that hurts Kenny Pickett's stock is the draft class he was a member of and the draft classes that are going to end up bookending his draft class. Think of last year's draft class when you had quarterbacks like Mac Jones, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, all those guys who were it was a very good QB class last year. This coming draft, you're going to have probably Stroud, Bryce Young, a bunch of other names. So,
Will Levis, Anthony Richardson.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Devin Leary, Bill Jerkovich.
Yeah, so
Todd Clifford.
Exactly. Okay, you all can flex on me however much you want. But so you have 2 very, very good quarterback classes, and then you have Kenny Pickett's class, where it's just like there's really nobody of that caliber in that class, including Pickett. So I don't think he's serviced well by having a great field of quarterbacks in the draft before and what's going to be a great draft of quarterbacks after him.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I'm not surprised by. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You're good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, let's go to NFL highlights. This is what everybody's here for, anyways. I'm going to go ahead and tag the scores at the bottom. So, Aubin, I don't know if you've been with us for one of these. We kind of each just pick a game and talk about what was impressive about that game, kind of how it went. Which one of you wants to take Philly and what happened in Philly with Philly?
I mean, I don't know. I'd rather take the Giants, honestly, but
okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we had a couple. I actually, my highlight in that game would be more so from DeAndre Swift for Detroit, because the Eagles have one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, and he almost had as many rushing yards as A.J. Brown did receiving yards, and that was a lot. So Eagles highlights: A.J. Brown, 10 catches, I think 144 yards, 154 yards.
Had him on my fantasy team.
Something crazy like that. So that's great. But I was way more impressed with DeAndre Swift coming out there and running all over the Eagles defense. And he was realistically the only reason that Detroit was as close as they were. Without DeAndre Swift playing that game is a blowout. I mean, Swift had his first run of the game was 51 yards, which led them right down the field to score. He had another run in the fourth quarter that was 20 plus, 30 plus yards. Without DeAndre Swift in the offense, I mean, let's be honest, Jared Goff is not a good quarterback. So there's nothing tremendous that Jared Goff did yesterday. He kept the Detroit Lions in the game. He threw a pick. It was a pick six. Whatever. He kept them in the game long enough, but there was nothing that he did from a play standpoint that was good enough to warrant, Detroit being within 3 points at the end of the game. So without DeAndre Swift, there's no chance, because Jalen played a great game. A.J. Brown obviously had a great game. Unfortunately, Devontae Smith had 0 catches for 0 yards yesterday. But and Miles Sanders had a fantastic game, 94 yards rushing. I mean, when you're clicking on all cylinders like that, I mean, they should have been up by 17 plus, which they were at the beginning of the fourth quarter. But Swift, I mean, he kept them in, and that was the big highlight yesterday for me.
And also, Jordan Davis had the least number of snaps for a D tackle for the Eagles. When he was in, the Lions averaged 2.8 yards per carry. When he was out, they averaged over 10. So
he's
let
the
me
size
tell
of
you,
my
Eagles,
house.
put him in there.
He's the size of my car. He could carry my car like a backpack. And I drive an SUV. He would just pick it up and just walk around the street just for fun. Keep him in the game. Fletcher Cox is getting old.
Yep.
We just lost Brandon Graham for the year. He tore his ACL.
Derek Barnett.
Or Derek Barnett, I'm sorry. Derek Barnett tore his ACL, so our edge rusher's gone. So throw somebody else out there on the edge.
Yep.
Putting Kobe Dean as an edge rusher, I don't know if he can do well there, but he didn't get much PT yesterday. But throw Jordan Davis in there somehow, some way. Let Hassan Reddick hang out on the outside. We'll be fine.
No.
I'm going to take the Giants and the Titans quick. Congratulations, New York Giants. You're no longer at the bottom of the barrel. You're actually looking up for once. Daniel Jones, you still stink, but heck, guess what? Saquon Barkley is back. Pretty sure he's back. He had the second highest miles per hour run in the entire NFL yesterday at like 22 or 23, something like that. I don't know. But like their defensive line, still pretty legit. Offensive line created holes for Barkley for once. And Dable really got in Daniel Jones's face quite a bit that game. He's not going to take any crap from him. They actually look – I mean, when you go out to Tennessee and beat the Titans, Derrick Henry, that's an impressive win. I know the Titans aren't like world beaters, but they're usually in the thick of things. They're usually in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I know it's week 1, but I don't think it's an overreaction to say this is an exciting time for Giants fans. But they do need to get a new quarterback probably next year.
But give it 3 weeks and you'll be right back to where you're supposed to be.
Probably. But at the very least, Saquon, I think, is back. He looked really good yesterday. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll take this opportunity to talk about the Vikings and Packers.
Aaron Rodgers still thinks that week 1 is a bye.
Yeah, he does. He does. Just ask my fantasy team. But Aaron Rodgers, I am, as someone who has him on his fantasy team, I'm hoping that what we aren't seeing is Aaron Rodgers really, really missing Devontae Adams as a target.
Well, he didn't have
Devontae
Derek
Adams
Carr very
went
much yesterday,
off
but
in his game. So Aaron Rodgers is going to need to find somebody to throw the ball to. And we know that, at least during the regular season, he's been a very, very elite QB. We know that sometimes he can have trouble in week one getting on the same page. And then after that, takes off. I'll be interested to see how that goes. I was also very interested to watch the Vikings in that you have a quality of back in Dalvin Cook, but it doesn't really matter when you have Justin Jefferson running around the entire secondary as free as a bird. So,
you remember when the Eagles could have drafted Justin Jefferson, Kyle? Do you lose? Do you lose
haunts me
sleep at
but
every
you
night?
got
day
that
when I see
massive
this stat.
talent
Do you
in
lose
Jalen
sleep
Reagor.
at night
At least you
knowing
got
that
rid of
Jalen
Reagor.
is
Oh,
At least you got rid of him.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter.
I know. I'm just trying to help. At least you have receivers now. Devin
Oh,
Duvernay,
yeah,
Rashad Bateman.
It only took 3 years, so
Yeah, no, they finally listened. They finally listened at some point.
Yeah.
But no. If Justin Jefferson can make the secondary of every team look like the secondary of Green Bay, the Vikings are going to do very, very well this season.
I decided to watch the Hurricane game because I was kind of tired of watching the stuff that I got on YouTube TV. Not many great games were on, so I watched Bears Niners. If you did not watch that game, that whole field was one big puddle. I don't know if that benefited the Bears or not, but I have to say, Justin Fields, I made fun of him all offseason. I said he doesn't have any targets. He has nobody to throw to. He doesn't know what he's going to do once he gets out there. He did pretty well. Montgomery is still a freak. So is Khalil Herbert. They found a lot of ways to open up the rushing lanes. I don't know if maybe some of their draft picks, which were some O-linemen that I can't think of off the top of my head, maybe that changed it because our big complaint was their O-line. Maybe bringing in, I can't think of his name, Alabama, I should know this, Leatherwood. Maybe bringing in Leatherwood would help. I don't know, but they look different. And I'll tell you what, Lance looked good, but Lance didn't look elite. That Bears defense actually looked decent. I'm not going to come out here and say the Chicago Bears are going to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to come out here and say they're an elite team. But for year two, to come out and take the Niners at home and actually do something on offense, I did not expect that. That was really good for them.
Bravo,
sure. Eddie Jackson. Thank you for the safety or the interception. Sorry.
Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker, both Penn Stater, did really well for them. But Trey Lance, I don't think ever played in the rain in North Dakota.
Nope.
So Justin Fields played in Ohio State, and Ohio State, that's an open stadium, right, Luke?
Correct, yes.
So they've played in rain before. That's a little bit of a difference. And I don't think Trey Lance.
Yeah, and being in San Fran, I don't know that they're getting much.
No.
A lot of rain in San Fran either.
California's on fire, so.
What is this? Is this water?
Yeah, they're not used to water over there, sadly. But Lance is definitely overhyped a little bit, I think. It's going to take him some time to adjust to Shanahan's game plan because he really shouldn't have to do a lot. Jimmy G didn't do much, and the 49ers offense rolled. So he'll have to stay within himself, give it to Debo, give it to Kittle when he comes on, give it to Ayuk. Mitchell's hurt. That sucks, but
are we talking about Jimmy G at all today? Is that I don't know what other segments you have planned for today.
I didn't have it written.
If you have a moment at some point, I want to throw out something I saw today. I don't know if anyone else saw.
Go to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Should the Cowboys trade for Jimmy G? And if they do, what pieces are you going?
If you like game managers, which is what you have in Dak Prescott, let's trade for another game manager and
But
hope for the best.
But here's the thing. But I mean, let's look at it. If we're realistic, I mean, Dak Prescott's 6 to 8 weeks gone. That's over half the season. So are we looking at someone who can win us a game and who can manage the game and keep us in it?
Yeah.
Or are we just going to deal with mediocrity, utter mediocrity? And maybe
he shouldn't have to do much. You have CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Zeke, Tony Pollard.
Zeke only had like 30 yards yesterday. I don't know what's happened to that man.
Yeah, it wasn't. No,
I'm just. My argument is just that you're right. Jimmy G wouldn't have to do everything. He doesn't have to put on like Patrick Mahomes level. Like, let me throw for 5 tutties. That's not going to happen. Like, but a game manager, I'll agree with that. Yeah,
Michael Gallup is there. I mean, the Cowboys have a lot of talent, and on paper they should run probably. Well, not so much with the Eagles acquisitions, but on paper they probably run away with the division. You know, so without Dak Prescott, do they have a chance at winning games? I mean, those games are winnable games to me on the schedule right now by playing Dallas because
without Dak,
talking about a backup quarterback who really doesn't have much experience. I mean, their 2 backups last season played a lot because Dak Prescott over the past couple of years has been injured quite frequently, and so they've got playing time, but they're not people who have gone to a Super Bowl and competed at that level.
So I have an alternate question to that then. Do you trade for Jimmy G, or do you tank for Bryce, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson?
I
think Jerry Jones is way too prideful for that.
Yeah, all the eggs are in the basket with Dak Prescott.
But
plus, your offense was so good last year. You have most of that core still there. You'd think you'd be able to pull it together.
Offensive line.
Who's the running back?
Booty. Offensive line.
Who's the running back for San Fran?
Elijah Mitchell.
Is he good?
He got hurt. Yeah, he got hurt.
He's hurt, but
So let's just pitch this, right? Jerry Jones, we're looking for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Jimmy G. Is it time for the Cowboys to move on from Zeke? I mean, he really has not. The last couple of years, he really has not been the dominant force he was in his first couple of seasons.
Yeah, but I think there's this
is that a trade
perception
that they could make? Does Zeke make the 49ers, who's just a pure downhill runner? Does he make the 49ers a better offense? And does Jimmy G help? Does he help the Dallas Cowboys enough for them to have winnable games?
I think so. If you're proposing Zeke for Jimmy G, yes, because Tony Pollard has already proven he can take over. You have a second running back that could bring even better offense than Zeke. Zeke is not bad. Zeke is just aging. It happens to running backs all the time. They age out. If you want to bring on to a roster that's already kind of stacked on offense like the Niners would be, you're right. Zeke for Jimmy G would be pretty good. Now, salary would be an interesting thing to kind of play with, but Jimmy G just took a cut.
He's got to be close to the end of his career, to the end of his contract. He can't have too many years left on that contract. Zeke,
he's got to have
too many years left.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a workable deal, but I
like it.
Is that something that they
it could work
to consider? Because I think of Zeke a lot like I think of a Frank Gore, just kind of big and strong and just running down your throat, but he's got the kind of finesse to make it interesting that Frank Gore really didn't have.
Yeah.
So kind of like a LaDainian Tomlinson, kind of sort of with some of that catching ability too. So I saw it pondered today. The initial ponderance was, did the Cowboys make a move for Jimmy G? But then the Zeke thing popped in. So,
yeah, I like that. Thanks for bringing that to me. I had no idea. Let's go to spicy meatball. Luke, do you have one? You don't have one written here.
I do have one. I just haven't had time to put it on the schedule.
You're okay. Let me get you set up here real quick.
Not a problem. Okay, so my spicy meatball for today is, in light of what we saw in Austin, Texas on Saturday, we saw what SEC teams are going to be using for the rest of the season as a blueprint against Alabama. And again, once Alabama gets some of their best wide receivers back on their roster from injury, that blueprint might have to change. But for right now, it looks semi-effective. If Alabama can't find a way to crack that code offensively and be able to move the ball against defenses that apply that code, the constant predictions of Alabama versus Ohio State for the national championship are going to shift. My spicy meatball, and I'm going to speak it out into the open now, is that for the national championship, it's going to be Ohio State versus Georgia.
I think it's key. You think
For the
Ohio
Natty.
State will last that long, but it's okay.
But
You've been wrong before.
Well, the thing is, here's the thing.
Anymore.
Ohio State is in a unique position in, yes, they are also missing some very key pieces of their offense in Jackson Smith and Jigba and Julian Fleming. As soon as those guys come back, I believe you're going to see the Ohio State offense kick back to where it was because they still have that core. We saw them in the Rose Bowl last year where they absolutely went off. Jackson Smith and Jigba absolutely went off. All those pieces are still there. They can still air out the football when they have the right pieces. The questions we had about Ohio State last year were, can they run the ball? Are they tough? And can they play defense? And thus far, they've answered all three of those questions in the affirmative.
Against Notre Dame and Arkansas State.
Thank you.
Yes, but again, we all thought Notre Dame was good at the beginning of the year.
Luke,
And-
we is a lot of people.
Yeah, I was going to say we is not I.
we is a lot of people.
Well, okay, so that said, they've answered those questions as best as they can against the competition they've been offered. Let me just say that. Georgia is looking like a game wrecker right now. They are absolutely eating through people. Meanwhile, Alabama, at least in that Texas game, is showing some signs of ways that teams can beat them. So right now, if I trust Ohio State that they've answered the questions that we had about them at the beginning of the season, that they're going to add in their strengths later and that's going to grow, Georgia's going to look game wrecker. I don't think Ohio State and Georgia for the national championship is a bad prediction at all.
No, I have two rebuttals, Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr. Anyways, but yeah, that's not bad. It's entirely possible. We do look beatable. We'll see if that is subject to change. I'm going to come back up into my top spot here so you don't get your head cut off. All right. So to this point, we are going to stop and do some of our ads. So Fresh Cuts is our first sponsor that we have ever had. It's a local barbershop in Marion, Indiana. You can contact Caleb for an appointment time through www.freshcutsbarbershop.com. We are also supporting him as he runs for the best barbershop of Grant County. He won last year. Let's help him bring it back this year. Yeah, he's a good guy. Let's head on over. Steve Wood Illustrations here for all your art needs from Star Wars to G.I. Joe and beyond. See him for all the nerds in your life who you aren't sure what to get. Great guy. He'll make you a deal. He's funny. We're also going to support our friend Ronnie Morales. He runs for mayor of Marion. I've known him. My dad had him as a student. He is really active in our community. He's done a lot of good things in our community. He's just an overall good person. I know he wants to bring good change. So we are going to show our appreciation for him by backing him. Check out his Facebook page to follow along during his campaign. Liberty Prep Friedman, our local post-grad prep football program. We're also showing our support for them and head coach Paul Funchess as they begin the season coming off of a NPGAA national championship, and they are trying for a second. You can find them playing home games at the high school stadium in Marion. I'll let Aubin take this one. This is the first time that you've been here for that. So
yeah, I am the co-host of a podcast called The Culture Corner, which is if you remember me from times prior when I've been on the show with the Jocks, the formerly known as Afro Latinos are kind of dissolving into this plethora of things. We've got the Culture Corner, which is going to handle all the education points that we looked at as the Afro Latinos. Kind of the fun side of Afro Latinos is broken into a show that I am hosting by myself called Come On Son, which is kind of like a sports debate, or not just sports, but it's like a debate show. We'll talk about anything and everything and just have a lot of fun doing that. And then we still have our You Think You Know, none of which have been an active in the last like 3 months that we've been making this change because I don't know how to stop doing musicals. And now my wife is also doing musicals. So for the last 4 months we've been doing show after show after show. I'm literally sitting here at rehearsal right now.
Yeah.
I did my scenes at the beginning and was like, oh, I don't have any more scenes in this act. I'm gonna hop on the podcast. So
We appreciate it.
So yeah, we'll be in action. You can catch all 3 of those shows on our Facebook page. All of our branding right now still says the Afro Latinos podcast. It will be shortly whenever I can just get an episode started. We'll be starting the Culture Corner soon. Our first episode is going to be looking at the culture of education. So since my wife and I are both school teachers, it's going to be us as well as some of my colleagues and friends who are in the education field, and we're going to be talking about the culture of education and how schools have changed and how the students have changed, and kind of look at that from a teacher perspective or an educator perspective. So be on the lookout for that. Check us out on our Facebook page, the Afro Latinos podcast, until it actually becomes the Culture Corner.
Culture Corner.
Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, I just realized it was like, I know what we're going to do, and he's here, so I'm just going to put him on the spot. Speaking of Friends Cast that we also have Rules of the Frame. They specialize in movie reviews of pretty much anything there is. They kind of change up their stuff all the time. Connor will soon be a guest on our other show, Smash Popcorn. He just started his job teaching film at Indiana Wesleyan University. So he'll be joining us as a professor of film review. And last but not least, we have 1,000 Wives of Weird. It is exactly that weird. From reviews of weird movies, criticizing bad movie choices, Brad H. And Billy Martell will keep you entertained and laughing for hours on end. Check them out exclusively on Spotify. They are super fun. Okay, let's go over to, let me see. Yeah, we do need to cut down on some stuff here to keep it rolling.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Let's get let's do flashbang really quick, and I'm just going to ask one. ACC or Pac-12?
ACC.
Pac-12.
ACC.
Wrong. It's Sun Belt. Moving on.
Good answer.
We'll go to our NCAA Newswire. We have our own top 10s. We've kind of spent a lot of time talking about it. If you were to rank the first 3, I guarantee we would go Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State in that order is my guess. The only person that may disagree with that is in the bottom left. But
for now, I will give it to you because I'll go purely by the AP rankings. I do believe Notre Dame is better than to be unranked. I think they probably should be somewhere in the bottom of the top 25, especially if Oregon is still there.
Marshall. I don't know.
Well, Oregon is still there. So if Oregon's there, I think Notre Dame at least belongs there. So I will say that.
Let's do this one quick because I think it's interesting to talk about. This was written before all the losses. I apologize if there are disagreements here. But there are still a couple teams that are in the hunt to be in the playoffs for the first time. Maybe they have somebody on their schedule that looks like they're going to be difficult. The first one for me, Arkansas. Arkansas could absolutely get there. They have been trouncing people since last year, almost gave us a big fat L. I think their biggest game is going to be against Texas A&M. It just feels that way. I know Texas A&M took a loss, but if there's anything that I know, if you take one of those hard losses, you can go one of 2 ways. That's either going to collapse your entire season or you're going to play your minds out for the rest of the season. And as much as I want to hate Jimbo Fisher, I have a feeling it's going to be the latter. Anybody?
So we're talking about the college football playoffs in 2024 when we expand them, right? That's
it may not happen in 2024. I actually think
because it's not happening. Because I respect the opinion, it's not going to happen anything. But when the playoffs are expanded to more teams, absolutely. But no, not now. It's not.
This is why I'm spitballing. This will be their most difficult game. The game that could send them to the playoff if they win it. If Alabama keeps looking bad, if Georgia, it's a lot of ifs.
You do know that Arkansas play Alabama this season, right?
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, I would wager that the Arkansas-Alabama game will be the toughest game on Arkansas's schedule.
That's entirely possible. Speaking of people that could get in, look, the Big 12 has been progressively bad about getting to the Final Four, but I'm going to give it a shot here. Baylor just lost, but Baylor was probably still the best offensive team in the Big 12. I think that Oklahoma State, if they want to get there, they're going to have to go through Baylor. And yes, Baylor lost to BYU. I understand. But I still don't count them out because they were there last year. This was the game that determined who went. And yeah, they both failed because they both lost too many games. But as of right now, Oklahoma State is still undefeated. For 2 weeks in, you still have a shot. I think this is their biggest game.
And Baylor could still be in it because unless we don't believe that a one-loss Big 12 champion makes it.
They haven't done it thus far, so I mean,
yeah, maybe not.
This one, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to think. This one's way off the wall about send me to the playoffs. But look, Clemson has dominated the ACC for a long time because there's nobody there. My two dark horses were Wake Forest and North Carolina State. But if I put the two of them together, Sam Hartman is not that good. He is not good enough to get them to a playoff. He'll get them to a nice bowl game, sure. They'll probably go like 2-3 losses. Great, but you're not going to win the ACC. Now, the dark horse for that has to be NC State. Do we believe in Devin Leary to take out Clemson at Clemson to clinch the ACC?
No, Clemson's defense is really good. Probably one of the best that Clemson has had. You look at the NFL prospects they have on the roster. I mean, like that Brian Breesy, I think he transferred a couple times. He's there. Miles Murphy, Trenton Simpson, I believe is his name. They have a lot of studs on that defense. If DJ Ukulele, whatever his name is, cannot turn the ball over,
God bless you.
Like they're going to be, I think, pretty successful no matter.
I think Luke just discovered speaking in tongues.
Maybe. I don't come from that theological aisle, but that's fine. I do believe it will come down to what Clemson decides to do at quarterback. Right now, they seem committed to DJU, and if they continue down that road, I think anything can happen. I think NC State potentially could go into Clemson and win that game because the offense just looks anemic with DJU under center. However, if they hand off the reins to Cade Klubnik, who it looks like it just flows when he's under center, then I think we could start seeing Clemson start to actually get some offensive firepower, and then you add in a quality defense, they could make a playoff run.
They could. Let's go to this one. I'm biased. I think this is still the biggest game we're going to play in the SEC leading up to the conference championship game if we make it. Yeah, they lost, but they talked a big game in the offseason. They did beat us last year, and we have them at home. Lots of factors that I think could potentially knock us out. Sorry, I didn't even specify this. Everybody on the left is the team that I think will make it into the playoffs if they beat X team.
Okay.
I don't think A&M is going to go all the way out. I think that'll still be our like big premier game, which isn't saying a whole lot. But yeah, I think if we take care of A&M, we're going to take care of Auburn. Auburn is Auburn. Let's go to this one. I feel like this one has some more weight than anything else. Even though they lost to Florida, I'm still going to give Utah the benefit of the doubt for having a really good offense. USC needs to take out Utah.
Correct.
USC cannot take any losses at all if they want to be in the conversation. And currently, they're the only Pac-12 team that still has any kind of weight to get there. Do we believe in USC? Do we believe in Caleb Williams?
I think he could do it. I've been saying USC as a dark horse for the playoff since the beginning. I do think that under Lincoln Riley, it's true, they are operating. They are heaven for transfers right now. If you're transferring, you're most likely to end up in USC at USC, in my opinion. But I think they have the talent. At least, they might not have recruited it, but they've definitely got it there. I think they have the talent. It's just a matter, I think, defensively, whether or not they can hold a team as offensively powerful as someone like Utah. But if they can win that game, it wouldn't surprise me if they go undefeated for the rest of their season.
I agree. They'll play Notre Dame, but yeah. Anyway,
Well, we'll see if Notre Dame can pull it together in the end.
speaking of SEC teams that could potentially make the college football playoff, they lost to Kentucky, but Kentucky does have Will Levis. If you take a one-loss Florida, if they win out, I'm going to say that their toughest game will be Georgia. It will be. It just will. And the nice thing is they have them in the swamp, and that could potentially be a dangerous combination for Georgia, because I will go ahead and tell you right now, Anthony Richardson looks really good. He may have failed to beat Kentucky, but he still looks really good. Again, just pandering at this point to Florida. It's Florida. They'll find some way to mess it up. Let's go to the obvious here. For Michigan, there is one game that will determine whether they get to the playoffs or not, and it will be that game.
The game. Yep.
Yeah. There's no way that anything else on there. I mean, Michigan State, you can make a argument for, but Ohio State will be ranked high enough that if they take Ohio State out, I think they just make it, regardless of the Big Ten Conference Championship results. I think they just make it.
I mean, an undefeated Big Ten champion is going to get in regardless.
Probably, and it would probably be Michigan if they beat you. So
true. Let's not speak that into existence, though.
No, let's not. Here's one more. This was written before they lost to Marshall, but let's just say that this year is just weird, and we're looking at two lost teams, and you're going to start looking at what two losers are there. If Notre Dame is there, their toughest game will have to be Clemson. It has to be.
It has to be,
because they'll be at. What's the name of Notre Dame's?
Death Valley.
No, Notre Dame.
No.
Oh, no, South Bend.
South Bend. They'll be in South Bend. Depends. It depends on what quarterback is there, I guess. But that's definitely one.
If it's Cade Klubnik for Clemson, I don't think Notre Dame is going to win.
And I would have to say, even if Notre Dame has two losses, but you take out a top 5 Clemson, you have to consider it at the very least.
There would have to be a bunch of chaos, but nothing is
Agreed.
impossible.
And then the last one, I'm sure that you're not shocked by this one at all. You got to beat Wisconsin. You have to. That's just kind of you beat them. Who else do you play besides Michigan? I'd say Michigan, but Michigan-Ohio State has been lopsided for years. So I'm going to say Wisconsin just for the sake of being that guy. So.
Yeah. I mean, from the point of view of Michigan, yeah, we're definitely there. I would say that for Ohio State, given how last year ended, we are definitely circling the Michigan game on the calendar more than the Wisconsin game.
Agreed.
Now, we're going to take each game one game at a time. Ohio State's, I'm sure that's going to be Ohio State's mentality. They have that game coming up in a week from this next Saturday. So I'm sure just for, it's coming up. Yeah, we have to go and win that game. But they have a special color of ink when they circle that last game in November on their calendar.
Yeah. There were a lot of upsets. Usually we like to pick on them. We've kind of already picked on most of them already. So we're just going to skip and go to overrated. Kyle, we've already talked about Notre Dame. I'm not going to talk about Notre Dame anymore. Let's talk about one of your favorite people to complain about, Iowa quarterback Spencer Petras. Overrated, yes or no?
I don't think he should be rated at all. That Iowa offense put up 7 points in the first week, and it was 2 safeties and a field goal.
Yeah.
Then they put up 7 points the second week and lost to Iowa State. Iowa State 10-7. Listen, last year, okay, Iowa complained that Penn State was faking their injuries, was going down to stop their offense. That's the most laughable thing I've ever heard. No one is scared of Iowa's offense. They live in the 1900s. Their quarterback is awful. Defensive line is the only good thing about them, but they have no skill whatsoever. The best receiver they probably could have had is Charlie Jones, who has 300 yards and 3 touchdowns for Purdue. He transferred from Iowa to Purdue. This little white kid, but he's killing it. So that should tell you how bad Their quarterback is. Listen, Iowa's never going to change. Kirk Ferentz, he always puts together really good defense, a pretty solid offensive line, but their offense hasn't caught up with the rest of football. So Iowa's stupid. They're stupid, and I hate them.
Let's go to our second and overrated here. Scott Frost. Now, I wrote this before he got fired and before he lost, because he already had set a record for, this was at the beginning of the season, 7 games in a row lost by single-digit points. Add 3 more games to that. He had 10. No one's ever done that. I'm sorry, but you want to set records. Absolutely. That is not the record you want to set.
No.
Scott Frost did so many great things at UCF. I think Scott Frost is a good coach until he got to Nebraska and lost his mind and decided, everybody will come to Nebraska. I couldn't even point out Nebraska to you on the U.S. map. Like, I don't know where Nebraska is. I'm kidding. I know what it's shaped like. I know where it is. But my whole point, like, no kid is, like, dying to go be a Cornhusker. What's a Cornhusker? Like, duh, Scott Frost, why did you go to Nebraska? What were you going to do against Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan?
Well, let's not act like Nebraska hasn't ever been good. They were good in, like, the 1990s. Yeah.
Think about how many years ago that is. That's 30 years ago.
We haven't seen it in any of our lifetime.
Well,
no.
Here's the thing. This is me coming from getting my master's at a school that in the 90s was also very good.
30 years ago.
I know.
So
but there's still a lot of
Cowboys
pride and there's still a lot of tradition
fans. Is that what you're...
at where I graduated from. And I don't know how similar Nebraska is.
Still.
No, at least Florida State put out great talent every year.
Yeah.
Nebraska had Bo Pelini, who gave them like 8 to 9 wins a year. Why did they get rid of him? Like, that's pretty decent. They would have been competitive at least. But Scott Frost can get nowhere near that.
They haven't been to a bowl game since 2016.
Yeah,
that's a big owie.
Yeah. Scott Frost hiring was not good. Overrated? Yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, you could argue that he's now properly rated now that he's been fired.
Probably. The last one that I'll do, look, A&M's 5-star class. Look, you can pay for all you want to, Texas A&M, but apparently you still have to play on the field. I forgot about that. You guys know about that, right? Like, you have to play on the field to get wins.
No.
Pay out of those deep Texas oil-rich company money. Okay, yeah, sorry, I forgot. My bad. So, yeah, big old 5-star class. Congratulations, Jimbo. You lost to Appalachian State. You know what game we're going to be talking about in 15 years? Hey, you remember when Appalachian State shocked A&M? They did the same thing with Michigan and Appalachian State. It was a shock. So was this. You schedule small schools on purpose to tune up. And if your tune-up is losing to them at home of the what? The 12th man? That's literally what they're called. Like, Kyle Field is home of the 12th man. You couldn't even get the 12th man involved. You couldn't get your money involved. Congratulations, Jimbo. I'm so, so happy for you. See you in October. Overrated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go for it. Go ahead and say yours.
Okay. Me, I also believe the Texas game, the Texas-Alabama game, exposed at least who Alabama has at wide receiver currently, because those Texas DBs were forcing Bryce Young to not find a target, but to take off running, at least at the end of the game. So, again, I know that there are a couple wide receivers on Alabama's roster that are injured right now. And as soon as those guys come back, we're going to see the strength of Alabama at that position, what they really are. But for right now, I would say the Alabama wide receiver core is slightly more overrated than they should be. Because, hey, we were told that this Bryce Young is going to make anybody out there look incredible. And he wasn't able to do that in Austin. So that might just be a one-off thing. That might not be. But for right now, I'm putting him in the slightly overrated category.
Understandable. Let's do one more, and then we'll wrap up. Let's do Jock, Paper, Scissors. We haven't done this for a long time. Let me pull up the graphic here, and let's chat. We've got 3 quarterbacks that are not elite, but they're good. You are an NFL GM. It is your turn to pick. These 3 guys are on the board. Who are you taking and why? Jock, paper, scissors.
For the audio listeners, can we say who these three people are?
Yes, I'm sorry. Anthony Richardson is the first one, Florida quarterback. Phil Jerkovich is the second one, Boston College. And Devin Leary is the third one for NC State.
I am going to go Anthony Richardson purely based on freak athleticism. This dude is.
In other words, because he's black.
Shoot it.
That's NFL GM speak for black quarterback, by the way.
Actually, I wasn't even thinking of that at all, but whatever. No, he's fast, he's strong. The one part that I think he does need improvement in is he does need to get more consistent and accurate and be able to sit in the pocket a little bit longer.
I think
find
Luke
his
might
targets.
actually be an NFL GM talking about a black quarterback. That's all things that are exactly what they would say.
Oh my word!
I'm sorry. Keep going. You're doing
We
great.
need a
Anywho,
Luke and Aubin show.
I'm
Just
yeah.
the two of you.
Okay, Aubin, you're just gonna make this roast of FSU beating LSU and New Orleans that much worse. I'm just gonna keep referencing that all
That's
day.
all right.
You don't care.
We were unranked from the beginning. I couldn't care any less.
Yeah, well, you were favored in the game. People were saying you're going to win that game, and
Well,
Ryan Kelly his
Oh,
thing.
God.
As we saw yesterday, this is going to be a bad year for kickers. There's going to be a lot of blocked kicks and a lot of missed extra points and field goals throughout the year. So if the NFL has shown us anything yesterday, it was bound to happen anyway. That LSU game was bound to happen. So
Yeah. So no, for fear of sounding any more like an NFL GM, I'll just leave it at Anthony Richardson.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you.
all in good fun, dude.
Exactly.
Aubin, your choice.
Anthony Richardson. Although Jerkovich is about the whitest quarterback name you could ever have.
Yes.
So I'm thinking he's got the highest ceiling. If I was in the NFL GM, going by Luke's standards here, I think he's got everything you're looking for. He's white and he's got a name. So I think he's got a good name to go on the back of a jersey. So it's just
I got a name.
And this is why I haven't been back on Jocks in a while. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I'm removed from all group chats, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah. Hang on, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Just to be different, I'll go with Devin Leary. Not the biggest guy, 6'1", but I would say he's probably the most prototypical passer out of these three. Probably the best mechanics out of these three. He definitely doesn't have the biggest arm, and he's definitely not as fast or mobile as Anthony Richardson. And he's not the biggest guy, but in terms of pure passing, I think Devin Leary probably has all three of them beat. It's just, will a team take a chance on him because of his size? But like NC State, they produced Phil Rivers, all right? They produced Jacoby Brissett. I'm pretty sure they produced someone else that's pretty good, but his name escapes me. So, based on that reasoning alone, I'm going to go Devin Leary. Fight me. I don't care.
That's okay. I was going to do something similar and go with Phil Jerkovich.
Oh, Russell Wilson. He went to NC State before Wisconsin. Phil,
Yes, he did. Jerkovich is the big quarterback of the three. He's got an okay arm. He transferred from Notre Dame. He couldn't stand Brian Kelly. I mean, who can? Sorry, Aubin. So I'll take him because he's the bigger guy. He kind of reminds me of Matt Ryan a little bit. And look, Matt Ryan is famous for losing a Super Bowl, but he has been consistent in losing. In passing yards and percentage at least every year. So I guess I'll take the big white guy and I'll be like an NFL GM and yeah, there you go.
Hey, that's why Kenny Pickett went instead of
Malik Willis. Yeah, absolutely.
Or they could have just wanted to pick the hometown boy.
Jerkovich is the new Kenny Pickett. I'm gonna start that right now.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah. Anyways, that will wrap up our episode for this evening.
Wait, I have a question. I have a question before wrap, because this is just a general question because I don't know. Jackson State is ranked where? Is Jackson State ranked?
Not FBS.
Not in the FBS.
FCS
right.
still, I think.
Didn't know if Jackson State was going to be able to. Are they they're D1, right?
They're D. I think they're
FCS,
FCS.
right?
I think they're D1, but they're FCS.
Yeah.
That's probably it. Yeah.
Come on over, Jackson State. We need a good HBC. Are there any HBCUs in the FBS?
I don't think so.
Let's
I
talk
think
about
they're
it.
all
That's
FCS.
just
Howard and Florida A&M, they're all FCS.
Yeah.
interesting.
It'd be interesting to see FAMU in the FBS. Because then
Interesting.
you'd have literally 2 FBS teams in the same city, which would be hilarious.
All right, that was it. I just wanted to know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about college. I don't know enough about college football to actually know that. So
I know that's why you've been quiet for a while. That's okay. Thank you for joining us, Aubin. Thanks for coming back to our revival that we do every fall because we're so busy in the summers and everything happens. But thanks for our revival again. Thanks for sticking with us. We will see you guys next week. See ya.
See you guys.